Social music talk. So then by the early 90s, you actually moved on in 1990 to K-Fog in San Francisco. So tell us
Yeah,
about
well,
that.
when you say moved on, it's like I lost my job.
Okay. Well, however you
you
want
know,
to
well, I
describe
mean,
it, yeah.
well, it was one of those things. If you've been in radio for any, I've lost a lot of jobs in radio, but most of the time it has nothing to do with your performance.
Oh, right,
Right. It's hard for people to understand.
It's behind the
usually,
scenes politics.
yeah, it's just it's a volatile business.
Yeah.
It's show business.
Everyone gets fired in radio.
Yeah, so they get let go.
Yeah, right.
So yeah, I when I lost my full-time job at 91X, I had a friend who put me in touch with the woman who was the program director at KFOG at the time, the late Pat Evans, and I got hired to again just to do weekends. So I moved from San Diego to San Francisco, and this was the first of my two different stints at KFOG.
Right.
Which were very different experiences. This was the early '90s, and it was really a great station. Dave Morey was the morning guy, legend in San Francisco, and
Susquehanna, yeah, great company.
Yeah, Susquehanna was a great company. This was before, the Telecommunications Act, which deregulated radio and allowed corporations to start buying up radio, which certainly was completely changed one of the things that completely changed the industry.
Right.
So KFOG back then was really, I have a lot of good memories from that. The reason I left KFOG on my own to take a full-time job at another station in San Francisco because I had just gotten married. I figured, well, I better do something a little bit more responsible. So I took a job as a morning co-host at sort of a hot AC station in San Francisco, which unfortunately only lasted a year.
Okay.
And then the station was sold and they fired everybody. Another one of those examples of what we were just talking about.
KSRY? Is that what?
Yeah, it's called Star FM.
Okay. And then it just went away, huh?
Well, they sold it. They sold it, and they just changed formats, and they let the whole staff go.
Right.
And that's just the way it goes.
But then you wound up.
I eventually got hooked on with Live 105. That was the next thing.
Yeah, that's while I was at Quad in Sacramento. And,
right. I remember that.
So that was mid-90s.
That was a great time
for
alternative stations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
there was a lot of really great stations playing that music then, and Live 105, which is now Alt 105.3, it was rebranded by Intercom because all of their stations, have sort of gone to the Alt
moniker
branding.
Yeah,
but it was Richard Sands, who does the Sands Report now. He was the program director there, and that was a great time. They had a great staff there. They had Alex Bennett in the morning, and Big Rick Stewart, Steve Masters, Roland West, and it was a really, really great air staff and a really great station that was really plugged into that alternative rock community, which, as you can imagine, in San Francisco was really pretty vibrant.
Oh, very, very. They had a big influence on Quad and other stations on the West Coast. So, I mean, they were one of the pillars, along with K-Rock and 91X and The End in Seattle, as the West Coast stations that kind of influenced the nation, I thought, back in the 90s.
Yeah.
But it was the alternative rock of the 90s, I think, that actually gave rock a whole new life. So,
I don't know. Supposedly, it was Nirvana hitting big.
Right.
That a lot of people point to as the time when punk went mainstream.
Right.
But this stuff all started well before Nirvana.
Oh, sure.
So I think it was already thriving before that. That was I still love listening to a lot of the music that we were playing back in at 91X and then at Live 105. But not stuck in that era.
Right.
Just,
do you think that music has survived, and does it? I mean, does it still get played on the coast?
It's not really our cup of tea. I mean, we do play things like U2 and REM and the Pretenders.
Right.
So some of those bands do, but the new wave-ish type stuff isn't what we do at the coast. Mm-hmm. And I think some of that music from that era, like music from any era, holds up better than others.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I still get a kick out of listening to certain things that I know are really dated, but one of the great things about music is that it reminds you of certain points in your life. And
right. Music is
pushes
like
the emotional buttons.
It's like a time machine. It can take you back in time.
It is like a time machine. I did a show in fast forwarding, and when I'm in L.A., I did a show for a while at a station down in Anaheim.
Okay.
And I used to drive down there, and I did a weekend show called the Wayback Machine, which was just like a flashback show for new wave and punk, which was a lot of fun to do. So
that must have been KMXN, right?
It was called Cool 94.9, and it was like a top 40 station during the week, but they let me do this Sunday morning specialty show.
Oh, cool.
That was kind of atypical of the regular format, right. And I used to just load up my cassette, not cassettes, my CDs. I used to load up a big bag of CDs, and I would drive down from. I lived in Venice, in L.A., and I would drive down to Orange County every Sunday morning, and I would do that show. It was a lot of fun.
Wow. And at the same time, you were working for Westwood One, right?
Yeah, I worked for Westwood One, which is a big radio syndicator located in Culver City in L.A., for about a decade. They were and still are a content provider. They have all kinds of syndicated shows that they provide to client stations all over the country. I used to write a daily morning prep service for alternative stations, and I covered a lot of movie junkets and interviews. Used to go and cover the red carpet, like at the Academy Awards and Grammys and things like that, which sounds a lot more glamorous than it was. But it was definitely work. But it was just covering show business right there in the center of show business in L.A.
Right. Part of a decade where you spent in L.A. Like you were at KLSX, 97 and 98. You did weekends there. What format were they doing at that time?
Well, that was a weird station in that it was actually a talk station.
Right. Okay.
It was
now I
FM
remember.
Talk.
And it had Cindy from the Brady Bunch on it.
Oh, you know what? Now that you mentioned, I think it might have. It was FM Talk during the week, and then they played music on the weekends.
Right.
Which is kind of a strange hybrid.
Okay.
So yeah, in going over my past here before in preparing to talk to you, I realized that during that time, in fact, there's one station I left off the sheet that I gave you, which was Y107.
Okay.
In LA, which is like they tried to compete with K-Rock for a while. I forgot who the program director was when I started. I know when I left, Steve Blatter, who's now head of programming at Sirius XM, it was the program director, and that was the station where I got fired, and I actually deserved it, which I will cop to because, well, I mean, I broke format, Alex. I broke format.
Wow.
You can't do that.
Yeah.
So I got canned from that one, and
you
that
gotta
was not
tell
one
us,
of those ones.
You got to tell us that
was
story.
My fault.
How did you break
I just
format?
told you.
What did you do?
I broke format in the middle of the night. I played a Beth Orton song. That wasn't
on
the playlist, and somebody somebody. I'm not going to say who. I think I know who it was, but I'm not going to say because I don't know for a fact. Somebody narked on me, and
someone who wanted your gig, maybe.
No, I don't know. Who knows? Yeah, no, I'm not blaming. It's no one to blame but myself.
Yeah.
If you count the Anaheim station, I worked at 5 different stations in L.A.
Wow. Okay.
During my 15 years there.
So that would
I don't
include
do the math. I don't know.
That would include Indie and the Sound.
Yeah, the Sound was all the ones leading up to that were just kind of part-time stuff. The Sound, when they first signed on, they were attempting to be a AAA.
Mm-hmm.
Dave Beasing was the program director, and I got hired to do weekends, and then that weekend kind of morphed into this kind of hybrid position where I did a couple weekend shifts and I did 3 overnights during the week, and it became a full-time salaried position with benefits, et cetera. So I was full-time there for a while. But they just couldn't make a go of it as a AAA, so they eventually transitioned and became, essentially a classic rock station, and did pretty well with that.
I liked
a long
it.
time.
I would listen to it on my trips to L.A.
Yeah, for classic rock, they did a good job of kind of being an alternative to KOS.
Mm-hmm.
And we used to play vinyl album side, which was a big deal. That's when vinyl was coming back.
Right.
And we'd have like these special weekends where it'd be nothing but vinyl album sides. So yeah, the Sound was a good station. I eventually got downsized though because they had to cut their budget, and so I got downsized back from full time back to part time. So I had to find something else to do, and that's how I ended up back at KFOG.
Yeah, the legendary KFOG that no longer exists. But you were there from 2011 to 2016. That was still kind of a legendary period, wasn't it? Or tail end of the. When did Cumulus come in?
Oh, Cumulus came in. That was well into the Cumulus ownership.
Because they're the ones who kind of ruined it, right?
Kind of. There's no point in going back over stuff that's already the milk has been spilled. But the Dennis Constantine, who was the guy who basically invented the AAA format with KBCO and Bolter.
Yes, I've interviewed him.
He was a great guy, and a great program director. He was the program director at KFOG at the time, and he hired me to come back. And he said, it's not like it used to be. Just know that. And I was like, yeah, I know, but I need the job, so I understand. Without going into great detail, they from the time I got there in 2011, and then the staff got dismissed in 2016, and then they just 4 or 5 months ago finally pulled the plug on it.
Yeah.
So from 2011 through 2019, they went through like 6 or 7 program directors.
Right.
I mean, it's insane. So
you can't.
So yeah, Cumulus they just it just died a slow death under Cumulus.
That's too bad because it's such a legendary image in San Francisco. The call letters, Fogheads, all that stuff. A lot of history to that.
It's certainly an iconic station.
Yeah.
And we'll never know. I think it could have survived if it had been managed better, but we'll never know.
Social music.